You know that feeling when someone shows up for you just when you need it most? That's what Uber is all about. Not just a ride or dinner at your door. It's how Uber helps you show up for the moments that matter. Because showing up can turn a tough day around or make a good one even better. Whatever it is, big or small, Uber is on the way. So you can be on yours. Uber, on our way.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show on WABC and other affiliated stations. Thank you so much for our regular listeners who tune in. We're on every Saturday afternoon Eastern Time from 1 to 3 p.m. And I love it. We get calls from people as far west as Chicago and Indianapolis. We've got people, a couple of times we got calls from people in Colorado, and we get calls all the way up to Maine in terms of the north, and sometimes as far as Georgia and Florida in the south. So thank you so much for all listening in. David Bahnson is a good friend. He is one of the top market analysts in the country. I've been begging him for many, many weeks to come on the show again because we need his insights. He is the author of many, by the way, you see him on Fox Business News and Fox News Channel all of the time. He has several really great books, my favorite of which is called There's No Free Lunch, 250 Economic Truths, which is, get that book for your kids, for your spouses, for your family, for your friends. It is a fantastic book. It's a great read, and it has all sorts of amazing economic lessons. So, David Bahnson, thanks so much for joining.
Well, good to be with you as always, Steve.
So I'm going to start you with a curveball. I don't know if you heard, David, what I was saying a little earlier on the show, but as you know, tomorrow is Mother's Day, and I'm going to make the case that not just because it's great social policy and so on, for our economy, David, we need more mothers. What do you say?
Oh, well, I certainly agree. I mean, I think that it's one of the arguments I've always made is that when people say there's social conservatism and then economic conservatism and that they're separate, I always say no. A strong economy comes out of strong social fabric, good families, mothers, the unconditional love a family has. Right. You talk about my book, No Free Lunch. One of the arguments I make is that a flourishing society is one where there's a great amount of joy that can be had in two things. Mm-hmm. In finding your calling and value in life and in producing goods and services. And these two things go together. And a lot of that comes down to the mothers that raise people to do so, that are providing that model in the home. I couldn't say enough about that entire setup. So great curveball question, Steve.
Yeah, well, so I just want to stay with this for a minute because as you probably know, the birth rate in the United States has fallen to about 1.7 children per married couple. And as you know, David, that's below replacement level fertility. We need, when I grew up, by the way, in a family, I had 4 brothers and sisters. So my mom had 5 kids. And at that time, that was in the 70s, that was considered kind of a medium-sized family back then. So do you have any thoughts about, it's a tricky question, but how can we encourage more couples to have more children and to get married and all these things? I think it ties into our economy, David, as you were just saying.
Well, it sure does, but I do know the answer here, and a lot of people don't like it.
Okay.
Increasingly secular societies that are irreligious and anti-religious, they are the societies that don't have children. And that's what happened in Japan after World War II, and it's what happened in Western Europe. Yeah. And so what America needs is to embrace the transcendent truth, faith. It needs to embrace the religious nature our country was founded on. And by the way, Steve, the thing you just said, too, about getting married, that's very important because there's actually no evidence that people are having less kids per years of being married. It's just that they're getting married later And
Yes.
so there's less time to have kids because of biology.
Yes.
And so I think that Gen Z is not going to do what Gen Y did. I think that they realize this whole thing of waiting till you're 35 to get married has not been a good trade-off. It's not been good economically or for people's own lives and relationships. I really think you're going to start seeing people get married younger, and then they're going to be having a few more kids. And so, I don't know if we're getting back to 4 or 5, but I think the 1.7 will get back up into the 2s, Lord willing.
That'd be great. I hope you were right about that. So, okay, let's get to what is in your strike zone, of course, and that is the financial markets, the economy. By the way, will you be on? I know you're on most with Stuart Barney on most Mondays. Are you going to be on his show this week?
You know what? No, this coming Monday, I'm actually going to be on Charles Payne's show on Fox.
Oh, Charles Payne, okay.
And so, so it's just a little different schedule this coming week. But I always love being with Stuart, always love being with Charles, and of course, always love being with our friend Larry Kudlow. And you get to talk about markets on Fox Business in a way that's a little bit more politically honest.
There you go. Well, I'll be on Barney's show at 9:30, and then you'll be later in the day. You'll be on with the great Charles Payne. So my question for you is, how are you feeling about things? If you go back about a month ago, it looked like the sky was falling. We had a crash in the market. It looked like it was the first stages of 1929. And since then, the markets have really regained, I think, most of the losses because of the tariffs and so on. What's your outlook right now? And what would your advice be to Donald Trump to really get back into the green with respect to stocks?
Well, of course, I wouldn't want to give the president advice on how to get stocks up, because I think that stocks go up as a kind of consequence of good economic policy.
Right.
So what I want is the president to get the policy right, and then the stock market will take care of itself over time.
Amen.
And so what everybody's saying that this about Wall Street and who cares what happens to Wall Street is really missing the point when it comes to the things in the economy. The people I'm most concerned about with the trade war are always on Main Street, okay? The small businesses. Steve, I put in my dividendcafe.com yesterday. You know that 77% of job openings in America right now are with companies that have less than 250 employees, with small businesses. It's the highest in American history. Mm-hmm. All right. There's very few job openings at companies that have over 5,000 employees. It's mostly small businesses. Mm-hmm. And the small businesses do not have access to the capital markets the way that big public companies do. And they're not the ones that are going to get waivers and exceptions to all the tariffs like Apple and NVIDIA are. And that's what I'm worried about, is small businesses being hurt and then it really hurting employment. So that's the big vulnerability, and that's why I really want to see this thing come to an end as soon as possible, because I think that it could end up doing a lot of damage to the economy over time.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay, courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. know this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
So I completely agree with your point that the kind of victims of some of this tariff policy are not the big, Fortune 500 companies. It's the smaller guys. And one thing I kind of object to is I hate corporate welfare, and I hate the fact that whoever has the highest paid lobbyist gets the favors in Washington. So it just bothers me. Look, I love our technology companies. I love Apple. I love Google. I love the products they produce. But I don't like the fact that a visit to the White House gets you $500 billion of added value to your stock, and there's too much of that going on right now, in my opinion. And it puts too much power in the hands of government and politicians, and not enough power in the hands of the investors and the people who actually run and operate these businesses.
Well, that's exactly right, but people need to make that point front and center of the entire discussion. The power in the politicians is what we as conservatives disagree with. The economist I probably quote the most in the book you mentioned earlier, There's No Free Lunch, is now deceased former Nobel Prize-winning economist from the 20th century by the name of Friedrich Hayek. And what Friedrich Hayek talked about was essentially the fatal conceit of central planning. What was that fatal conceit? It was the idea that there is somebody that has the power and the knowledge and the wisdom to properly steward the affairs of a big and complicated and diverse economy by themselves. We don't believe as conservatives that Washington, D.C. can do that. We believe that there are business owners in Kansas that can make decisions for themselves. Other businesses in Oklahoma are going to order from different suppliers. And that, all the interconnectedness of the economy cannot be centrally planned. And I think that tariffs are one way that we're trying to do central planning. And then the other way are subsidies and corporate welfare. And when President Biden did it with things like the CHIPS Act and that green energy infrastructure bill, we criticized it. And I just want to criticize both sides of that same coin.
So it's a really good point. And, I've been writing in our hotline that, look, if Trump just basically said, we're going to put, a 15% revenue tariff on everything that is imported in the United States, with no exceptions, and we're going to use that money to say, reduce taxes on things made in the U.S. of A., I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think, we could argue about whether that, favoring things that are made in America is a good strategy. I happen to think it is. I just don't like the fact that, we're going to give this, company this tariff and this company that tariff and and so. You're right. This is corporate welfare. This is the kind of cronyism that we don't really believe in America. I'm talking to David Bahnson, by the way, one of the top investment gurus in America. So how are you feeling about things, David? I was saying that, a month ago I was ready to jump off the ledge, and now I'm just feeling like things have really improved. You see it in the stock market, but also just the policies. I like the UK trade deal. I like the jobs numbers we've been getting. There's an incredible kind of resilience to the American economy, even with the body blow of these tariffs.
Well, Steve, I'm not disagreeing with you, but allow me just to hold out for a little more time, just in the interest of being, sober and judicious.
Yes.
The jobs impact is too soon, and I worry that there's a lag effect. I talk to business owners every day that are worried about where it's going.
Yes. I do too.
And of course, the elephant in the room, everyone's talking about the market has come back, and it really has, but let's not forget why it came back. It came back because 5 days later, he wisely, and under the advice of his very good Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, reversed course on a lot of it.
Yes.
There's a problem on the UK thing, which is, we run a trade surplus with UK. So by the logic of those who think trade deficits mean we're getting ripped off, that means we were ripping off them, right? Of course, you and I don't believe that, but I worry that some of these other deals won't be as good as the UK one was. The UK one's pretty simple. They're going to buy more stuff. We're going to buy more Rolls Royces, and then the steel and aluminum tariff went away, and the auto tariff went way down. But, there's a lot of wood to chop. I am optimistic because I do believe the president in his heart is a supply sider. I don't always agree with them on this tariff stuff, but I do want them to get the right kind of tax bill done. And there's another aspect of the tax bill I'd like to talk to you about if we have time, separate from tariffs.
We literally got 1 minute left, David. So go ahead. But
let me say this, Steve, in less than 1 minute. Everyone is talking about extending the 2017 Trump tax cuts, getting the budget passed, reconciliation. I'm with you on all of it. The only thing on your last segment, you said maybe they'll fit in that Social Security thing, and I just want to promise you and your listeners that there's no chance they have the room to get the Social Security thing done. If that's like $1 trillion of additional cost. But the thing they're going to do that I love is 100% business expensing, that R&D business expensing, interest deduction for companies up to 30% of EBITDA. That has no impact to deficit. It doesn't cost anything over 10 years, and it's very supply-side pro-growth.
Amen. David Bahnson is one of the top financial analysts in the country. His book is There's No Free Lunch. David, thanks so much for joining this afternoon. We'll be right back.